Hello. Oh, God. Okay, not looking forward to this at all. Arsenal 0, Aston Villa 3 at full time. Really, really horrible. Really, really bad. Really, really bad. This is going to be interesting to try and digest what we've seen. First off, congratulations, Aston Villa. Amazing performance. Clinical. Creative. Really lethal in the final third. Defensively strong. Midfield ran it. Douglas Luiz, what a player. What a player Douglas Luiz is. Ross Barkley, what a signing. Ollie Watkins, good finisher. Jack Grealish, really going up there as one of the Prem's best. Really, really, really good. And congrats, Aston Villa, to that performance, because that was brilliant. But there were two teams in that game, believe it or not. And there's some big questions. There's some big questions. Don't worry, chat. I'm going to get to you. I'm going to get to all of your comments as much as feasibly possible. Yeah. let's break this down. First of all, what Arsenal social media, Arsenal Twitter, Arsenal YouTube, what I will say is that I don't want to come across in a specific way. I don't want there particularly to be a massive divide amongst the fan base. I don't want there to be people that are, say, Arteta in or Arteta out, because I personally think it's ridiculous to think that way, especially considering how where we are right now. What I will say is that there may be a time. It might be 6 months down the line. It might be a year down the line. It might be 18 months. It might be never. There might be a time where I turn around and I go, maybe this hasn't worked. Maybe the Arteta thing hasn't worked. I'm not going to be someone who backs themselves into a corner. That's for sure. And someone who's like on the line of it's Arteta or you're gone. Because I think that's stupid. Because I think you get into the same scenario that you got in with Wenger, and it's just not healthy and it's stupid. So if it comes to the right point where I look at all the games that we've played, and across those games, if I think we're declining still, I think we're not making any improvements, if I think this, I think that, I will turn around and I'll be like, okay, I don't think this has worked. So it's going to be an interesting time to see what the club decide to do. What I will say is that just a week ago, Arsenal beat Manchester United for the first time since 2006. They beat a big six-side away from home first time since 2015. So in a week, like, it's crazy how things change. So obviously you need to take that into perspective. But let's talk about the mistakes that Mikel Arteta made today. I try and defend things a lot. I try and make sense of things. I think that people get very emotional, and of course on this show specifically we get very, very emotional about Arsenal, and we can make snap decisions and snap judgments. But I think now is enough time for Lacazette. It's enough time. We've given him enough chances, haven't we? Like, I was fine with him starting today. I was okay with it. I was wrong. Arteta was wrong to start him, because I can't see us putting the resources into playing Lacazette into form. I can't see how you give him any more time to play into form. Play Alba through the middle. Play Nketiah. Play Pepe. Just play someone else, because you're not going to play him into form. Play him in the Europa games. Give him the chance to do that. But other people deserve a chance. Other people deserve a chance, because the chance that he missed at 1-0 with the header is it's a fast ball. Don't get me wrong, it's a fast cross, but you have to be hitting the target minimum. You have to hit target minimum. You can't just head that ball and not even test the keeper. That is meat and gravy for the top strikers, top strikers. Willian, terrible, awful, really just devoid of anything. I was really unimpressed with him in the midweek. I thought he had a good game against Manchester United. I don't think anyone. I mean, if you think he had a poor game against Man United, I think it's just bias against the kid. But at the end of the day, he was terrible in midweek, and he was terrible today. And yeah, he's a tough one. You have to think about. You have to really look back and you think: is this guy really now, after what was a really good performance against Fulham? Since then, the only decent performance has been against United last week. There's questions that have got to be asked of Willian at this stage. I completely agree with the comparison with Mkhitaryan right now. He's becoming a Mkhitaryan-esque player. He's cost us a lot of wages. And at the time when it came in, and you guys saw the shows, I mean, I can't stand someone turning around and tweeting me and going, Tom, you so-and-so said this weeks ago, because things change, and I will drop a block so easily, because if Arsenal are losing, your first thought is I'm going to tweet Tom. I think you need to get your head screwed on. But at the end of the day, Willian was poor, really, really bad. And yeah, what else is there from the game before we go into your comments? Thomas Partey goes off, and we lose the will to defend. The midfield is, and I have to tell you, and we hyped up El Neni a lot last week, but El Neni weren't good. El Neni was not good at all, really. But it was the El Neni of the past. The El Neni that has rightly got the passive criticism that we've seen from myself and others. That he was, dare I say, I don't know how we would have been if Granit Xhaka was in the team. And I know that I don't want to kind of bring that up in a sense of, oh God, he's talking about Granit Xhaka. But at the same time, El Neni didn't do anything in that game to kind of warrant sticking in the team for the next league game. So if, and Xhaka was good in midweek against Mulder. So, and I have to say, I'm very disappointed that Joe Willock was not in the squad at all. Because I said on Thursday, that if you can't show that players that have a route into the first team after putting on really good performances, then that's not good. If you can't show that you can have a really good performance in midweek against Mulder, show creativity, show lethality in front of goal, and just show that you care and show that you actually put yourself forward. If you can't then have a route into the first team, what's the point? What's the point of putting in an effort in a Europa League game if there is no route for you into the first team squad, let alone not even the starting 11, the bench. If there's no route for you to get him onto the bench, after Mainsley, let's be real, has been pretty poor this season, really poor. And I know that he's a versatile player that can offer you stuff off the bench, but chuck Willock in, man. Why? Why not? Pepe did more than Willian did in his first touch of the ball than Willian did in the entire game. Gabriel, the first time I thought Gabriel's looked a little slow, slow to react. Not necessarily like slow in the pace of his game, but kind of slow in moments to read the danger. But again, I think that is part and parcel of how well Villa were in the final third and how lethal they were. Leno. This game was always going to come down to comparisons of goalkeepers as well, and Leno made an excellent save from Jack Grealish that I felt sure that he had to score. First goal, there's not much you can do about the first one. Second goal, Ollie Watkins, again, it's a really good ball across the box, and his position in there is, I mean, you're not going to stand in the middle when the ball's on the left hand side on the right hand side of Leno's goal. You're not going to stand in the middle of the box. Like, that is just where keepers stand. And if you get a good enough cross, you score. And then the third goal, this is a good finish, and maybe. But Leno was not the reason we lost the game today, was it? Right. Go for gold, people in the chat. Go for gold. And I will read out your comments. So here we go. Glenn Cook says, Arteta outclassed. Slow and predictable performance. The players looked lethargic, and I'm noticing body language I haven't seen since the horrible Emery days. Questions need to be asked. Body language is interesting because I agree with you, Glenn. I thought the body language was off. I thought we downed tools. I thought that, especially after the second goal went in, it was like, well, that's it. We've lost. Really, and to be fair, another thing, like people are crying out for Aubameyang to play through the middle, but he was poor. He was really poor. The only person that can hold their head up in this game is Kieran Tierney. He's the only person who can actually hold their head up in this game, and he has been a beacon of epitomising what an Arsenal player should be, with his tenacity, with his bite, with his guile, with his determination. He is the only person on that pitch that can hold their head up for me after this game. The only one. Yannick Max says, I need everyone who said Grealish weren't what we needed to apologise to Jackson right now. Ronk says they had the ball in the net twice with Partey. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. They scored the second and third goal in the second half after he'd gone off. So, no. Machiavelli says every player needs to do 10,000 push-ups tomorrow for that performance. Gary Hardy says, Joseph Maseko, I said I'd give Arteta to the end of the season before I judged him as a good or bad manager. Each week I'm finding myself less tolerant of him, but I'll give him until the end of the season. The real Janice says, Tom, what is our attacking game plan? Wingbacks are our only outlet. Again, and I think this is what's irritating about Joe Willock not being given a chance. Who would have thought it? Me turning around and saying that Joe Willock needs to be given more of a chance. But we don't have anything in the middle. There's nothing. There's no... And the thing is, I think that Lacazette gets a lot of stick, and quite rightly for his finishing, but he is having to do two jobs because there is no creativity in the middle of the park at all. That's why Lacazette drops so deep, because there's a huge hole. There's a massive hole in behind Lacazette where there's no one to pass him the ball. And we will start counting down the days to the point where we do have to bring a certain someone's name up. And it's gonna hurt me to do it, because I genuinely thought it's hard to bring up. Grow up. Like Mesut Ozil, right? Mesut Ozil, not in the squad for footballing reasons. But the thing is that there isn't anyone else showing any creativity. And before he was left out, there was no one else. Now, I'm not saying for a second that he solves all the problems. All I'm saying is that there is no one giving us creativity. So I want to know the reason. Now, I want to know the reason. Because to say that it's because of footballing reasons is not good enough now, is it? Because footballing reasons is not good enough of an answer when we lack so much bite, so much creativity. It should be, it's getting to the stage where you have to think why. Because we lack so much. And at the end of the day, we're just talking about things hypothetically, of course, and it could be that would have made no... When Arsenal do lack so much in that area, and your reasons why he was left out. I don't think it was at all. I think it was completely financial. I think it was financial, maybe behaviourally, but we don't know at the end of the day. Maybe something to happen behind the scenes. But for footballing reasons, that's BS. That is utter BS. And it's only being brought up now. And I hoped that it would never have to been brought up again, because I thought we would have just pushed on and Arsenal would have been good and we would have been able to create things without him. But we're not, are we? We're not creating things. Rolo GRG says, Tom, is Arteta struggling experience-wise? Be honest. I think he's struggling to kind of get... What he's struggling with is he's struggling to use the personnel available in a way which gives us the most output at the moment. I think that's what he's struggling with most. Is he out of his depth? No. He's not out of his depth because, well, at this stage, I will say, he's not out of his depth because he's improved a hell of a lot of things at the club. He won us a trophy by beating two massive teams. But across the course of a season is the big measure. This whole season will be a big, big barometer of how we do things, because January is coming up very quickly. If the club don't do something in January, Arsenal could be staring at another 8th place finish if we don't do something about this, because there are a lot of teams around us, Aston Villa included, that look better than us in the final third of the pitch. And that is ultimately where it is kind of telling, is that the teams that can score goals, like Manchester United go to Everton, they struggle to create things. But ultimately, when they had the chances that they did, they took them. Bruno Fernandes, Rashford, Martial, Mason Greenwood. These guys are taking their chances. Even they've brought in Cavani, who's, I understand, Arsenal. I'd never turn around and say that Arsenal could have got and should have gone for Cavani, but the guy scores goals and he's a finisher and he takes his chances when he gets them, and but yeah, it's Arsenal don't have that at the moment, and they especially don't have a striker that's doing that, and they really will struggle with Lacazette at the moment. And I think Arteta's struggling with the man management side of things. I think Arteta. What I worry about Arteta is I worry that he isn't able to take decisions with big players, and I don't really count Özil within that, in the sense that it is eventually turn around and say that, yeah, don't play Özil because he's costing her too much money, or his attitude's not right, or Guendouzi. But when it comes down to players like Lacazette, when it comes down to other players, I struggle to think that maybe he has the front to say that I was wrong, to say that, playing Lacazette and persisting with Lacazette was the wrong decision. I worry that he's not got the front to do that, if that makes sense. Glenn Cook says, one player won't solve the problem. The solution is simple. The players need to play the runs in behind and play the forward or diagonal passes when they're on. Stop hesitating till the window closes. And the thing is, you're spot on, Glenn, is that we do look slow. We do look devoid of something in the final third. Now, there was a great tweet that I saw from, let me find it. Gunner Blog, you should all be following James if you don't already. And Gunner Blog, James, tweeted saying, let me find it. People will say this was like the Leicester game, but aside from the continued attacking problems, I consider it quite different. Arsenal abject today in every regard, completely outplayed by an excellent Villa side, and they were excellent. And I think that is something that should be taken into account, is that the other team were excellent. And the difference between this game and United was that we paid United respect defensively, and we played that game perfectly. We did what Leicester did to us at the Emirates. And then when it comes down to playing a side where you should have the impetus to take it to the opposition, defensively, we looked really suspect. They got down the wide areas too easy. Bellerin was poor, someone we've not really talked about today, but positionally, Bellerin was quite poor. We saw the warning signs in the first minute. When they scored that goal in the first minute that was deemed offside, because it was, the warning signs were there in that first minute, and nothing changed. No one woke up. No one changed from that first minute, and that should have been a huge let-off, and that should have been the moment where the players turn around to each other and like, look, we need to get on this because this ain't bloody good enough, and we've conceded a goal, and fortunately we've been let it go. They didn't change from that moment. There wasn't any kind of switch after that let-off at all. Wesley says, the first one to blame is Arteta for not risking anything. Second one is Aubameyang. He did absolutely nothing since his signing, and his body language is bad. It's almost like he is trying to say he regrets staying. Now, Aubameyang's a very difficult one. What you will find is with Aubameyang, it's very difficult to criticise someone that a lot of people feel should be playing in the middle. And if you do criticise Aubameyang, what you'll find is that the easiest response is to say that he's playing out of position, he's playing out wide. But the fact of the matter is that Aubameyang's played that position a lot, and done it quite well a lot of the time. And to criticise him is completely correct in my opinion with his body language. Like there's something missing. There's something that's not quite there from Aubameyang at the moment. He's not taking the shots. He's not getting into the same positions as he was before, and he's not galvanising the side. And he's not being a captain right now. I don't get a very big captain vibe from him at the moment. And that's I think there's an issue within the squads. I think there's something just doesn't feel right at the moment. And I know that we're a week after playing Manchester United, and it feels very, very raw, and it feels a long, long time ago, that performance against Manchester United. But it is going to be a long international break. It is going to be a very long international break. Does it come at a good time? Is the question. Arguably, no. Because you'd like to react to things much quicker. We got a game against Leeds, a Leeds side that score, a Leeds side that do leak defensively, but when you're not creating and you're not taking your chances, I can see us losing that game. If we play the way we play today, we will not beat Leeds, and we will arguably lose that game. Tactically, Bielsa is very astute, and I just can't really see how we will break Leeds down when we need to. They play with 3 at the back. They play with 2 wing backs. It'll be stalemate in terms of formation, and we will then need to break them down. And I don't see us being able to do that right now. There's something really missing, and players need to be given, like, we need to give players chances at the end of the day. Like Nelson is given a chance. We need to give these players opportunities, because they are showing what they can do in the Europa League, and then they're not getting anything in the Premier League. I would say that, do you drop El Neni after that performance because he was really bad? Like, if you just be real, El Neni was bad. Do you bring Xhaka back in for the next one? I still think there was a lot of issues when Partey went off. He's so key. Like, can you imagine if we'd have not signed him? Picture this for a second. If Arsenal had not signed Thomas Partey, how bad we would be this season. Really. Imagine if we'd have gone for Aouar instead of him this season. Imagine how many goals we'd be leaking without him. We never would have had a chance against United without him. It is unreal to think really how bad the squad is at times in some of these games. It really does that. And Saka as well. Saka is someone that's very protected because of his age. But again, he had a poor display. Defensively speaking, he was very, very poor. Offensively, he probably offered more than most anyone else, to be honest, in an offensive sense. But defensively, he was very poor. Anything else? I've basically just gone for every player bar Tierney and just said they were poor. That's pretty much what today's show has been. Neil Cooper says, can you imagine if we had 60,000 fans booing and screaming at this lot? They were pretty rubbish, Neil. You're not wrong, mate. Christopher Fung says, we can only play well if we're considered underdogs. Every expert will be calling for Leeds to win and we'll flip on the switch. Yeah, we need to make Leeds favourites. That's what we need to do at this stage, is we need to make Leeds the favourites. Manoj says, funnily, we missed Luiz's passes. And yeah, that's a big one. And I hadn't really thought about that, is that we did miss Luiz in there, actually. I thought that Holding really struggled. Really, really struggled. GG says, why did Partey come off? He got a knock. Unfortunately, he was taken off for that reason. So, yeah. That was a game changer. That really was. We may have been able to have a chance if we'd have had Partey on the pitch to kind of command that midfield, but we just lost it. We just lost it, didn't we? Pedro says, we have no ball retention in the final third, Tom. Look at the second goal from Villa. Both Grealish and Barkley held it up long enough for runs to be made in behind as our defenders watched. Yep, you're 100% spot on, Pedro. Alex McCarthy says, now I want to see Arteta rage at them and say that tonight was unacceptable. And Alex, I hope that he does. I hope that he has the front to go in at them. I really hope he does. I worry that he doesn't. And I think this is partly where having been a player not so long ago at the club, and even having personnel within the club that was there when Arteta was there, is not helpful. It really isn't. It's really tough. That I really think that is going to be a big struggle to try and to turn things. Being an ex-player, being inexperienced without that reputation. You've taken them to an FA Cup trophy. That's great. That gave you some sort of gravitas. But at the end of the day, is that you need to really kind of push on from that point. So yeah. AC says, Arteta in or Arteta out? Again, I think, AC, the thing is with this question right now is that I think it would be silly to turn around and be like, Arteta out now. We're a week away of just beating United for the first time since 2006. What I will say, and I kind of want to bring the show to a bit of a close on this point, is that, as I said before, it may be in 6 months' time, it may be in 6 weeks' time, it may be in a couple of weeks' time, it may be in 2 years' time that I turn around and I go that I think it was the right time now, maybe that we go somewhere else, that we move on, that this idea hasn't worked. We've said this for this, like, as soon as Arsene Wenger left, it was never going to be the same, that there would be coaches that stayed at the club for years and years and years. It's just not the way that modern football works. Managers, coaches, they move to a club, they're there for a bit, they do a job, they move on. Thing change, football changes, ideas change, coaches lose the dressing room, and that is one of the biggest problems, and I think that's going to be one of the biggest challenges, is that Arteta now has to galvanise this dressing room around him. He commands a lot of respect from the players, but if a few key heads within the group begin to drop, he has a really big problem on his hands to try and regroup and get those players again on him, because if he doesn't, then that's going to be a really big problem for him. And I think that could be the way that I see Arteta not achieving what he could achieve with the potential that he's got is if he does lose the dressing room. If the players lose respect for him, if the players don't back him, and the players don't fight for him, that's when you will start to see the results really go down, and that is when you will start to see things turn around. And I have to say that our home form this season has been really poor. The Emirates has been... We were unbeaten at the Emirates all the way up until the Leicester game. But this season, West Ham at home, lucky to win that game. Sheffield United, we needed Pepe to come on and have a rare masterclass from him to come and influence that game. And we nearly did lose it at the end when we conceded to, I believe it was McGoldrick. So that's the second one. Then Leicester was... I'm sure there's another game as well that I'm forgetting. But Leicester that we lost. And then today's game as well. And all of those games, Arsenal did not look good in any of them. So yeah, it's not a great time to be an Arsenal fan. It's not. What I'd appreciate though is if you could drop a like on the video. It is for someone that is obviously has supported Arteta a lot, has backed him, I'm going to be quite frank, ridiculed some of the people that's called him out as a failure or was out of his depth from the start, which I still think is the people who, right at the start, it is a joke to scapegoat him and the way they did, and to wish his failure from the start. I still think that's worth ridicule. But still to come on here and talk to you guys and face the music, it's it takes front. So I hope you appreciate that, and I hope you can drop a like on the video. I think I estimated about 6 blocks tonight, not on the chat on social media. What I would suggest, word of advice, if Arsenal are losing, and as a passionate Arsenal fan, don't come and tweet me and saying, Tom, you said this, you said that in the past, because you're going to lose my respect, you're going to lose the ability to follow the account, so don't do that. It's just a word of advice. I respond to positivity. That is the way that we run the channel. That is the way we do it, is that we're a positive channel as much as we feasibly can be. And I have to say that at the end of the day, that if you set yourself out on a pedestal, then you are going to receive ridicule. You're going to receive a hell of a lot of abuse from sections of the fan base. And I have not intended to do that at all with Arteta. I purely backed the man. I purely wanted him to succeed. The same way that I wanted Emery to succeed when he first took over. I wanted it to work. It really didn't with Emery. I'm hoping that Arteta can turn this around. It's a big, big challenge to turn this around from where we're at this season, even though we've pulled out some really big performances. It's a big challenge. And you have to say is that if we come out the other side of this, sorry about that. I clicked the back button on my mouse. Terrible from me there. In terms of, let's have a look at the fixtures quickly. Let me just have a check of the fixtures. Arsenal fixtures. Okay. So, we obviously just lost to Aston Villa 3-0, if you didn't know. We've then got Leeds away from home. You've then got Wolves at home. And then you've got Spurs, which, it says to be decided in terms of time. So whether or not that does go ahead, I assume it would do. I don't know why it wouldn't. So your next 5 games. Okay. So you've got Leeds, you've got Wolves, you've got Spurs, you've got Burnley, and you've got Southampton. And those 5 games, you have to look at those and say that Leeds are shipping goals. Wolverhampton Wanderers are an interesting side that are very dangerous, but also can drop points. And we did well against them at the end of last season under Arteta. Spurs, park it for a second. Burnley, you should be beating Burnley. Southampton, very good Southampton side this season, and they are going to be a real challenge. And again, that's at home. Spurs. If Arsenal can come off the back of wins against Leeds and Wolves, and then we win against Spurs, that in my mind changes the whole perception of where the club is at. If Arsenal can beat Leeds, beat Wolves, beat Spurs, it's just at the moment sounds insane. Oh, it doesn't sound real to even speculate. But if Arsenal can somehow pick up those 3 wins, then you have to turn around and say that he has changed things. He has turned things around. If he loses against Leeds, if they lose all 3 games and you go on a losing streak of 4 games, then it is gonna be very, very toxic. And then you will really see a really dark period. If Arsenal don't manage to pick up any wins at all in those 3 games at all, it's going to be really tough. It's going to be really tough. What I will say is that if the amount of toxicity there is already around the place, it's a real big shame. It's a real big shame. And that's how I want to kind of finish the show, is I think that there is no point you going onto social media, jumping into channels, jumping into wherever, and throwing out a really negative vibe amongst the fan base. It's shit right now. I understand that. It is really bad right now. And we've got our fingers crossed up it changes. And all of you, no matter if you wanted the manager in, no matter if you wanted Ancelotti, whether you wanted Allegri, wherever you wanted whoever, if you really don't like Arteta, the mature bunch, the adult bunch, the people that really support Arsenal Football Club, you'll be hoping that he turns this around. You'll be hoping that he does. The same way that whilst I've turned around and said that I struggle to feel like Nketiah and Willock and Nelson will make it, I really do struggle in my mind to try and think that they will make it at the club. I pray they prove me wrong. And I hope that all the people that are really bashing Arteta constantly and abusing the guy and insulting the guy, I hope that deep down, they want him to achieve things and they want him to turn things around. I really struggle with some to believe that they do. I believe that a lot of people have got their own self-interests at heart over the better collective good of the club that they supposedly support. But I hope all of you really genuinely hope Arteta turns things around. I really hope you do. Because if you don't, I would really question your support of the team. I really would. And I hope you're on my side of things when it comes to this. It's the same. I really hoped that Emery had have turned things around. I really hoped Emery really would have succeeded. He didn't. And Arteta had to take up a big job. I thought he was turning things around. Winning an FA Cup was massive. But if we go in the next 3 games and we don't win them, then I'm going to be turning around and saying that it's not looking good. It's really, and at that point, if we didn't manage to pick up any wins in the next 3 games against Leeds, Wolves and Spurs, at all, I mean, I'm talking more than a win, then I would really be thinking, has he got the ability to turn things around again? All the while hoping that he can turn it around, really, genuinely. But yeah, then you start to ask questions. But the whole time, I hope you're back in. I hope you're back. I hope you stay positive. I hope you have a good international break. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be possible in some senses. But yeah, there's going to be lots of content. There'll be a podcast tomorrow with myself. And if they keep their promises, Drew and Raf are going to be on with a friend of mine called Kian as well. So I'm looking forward to talking about that. I say looking forward. It's not going to be enjoyable. But yeah, I'd appreciate if you drop a like on the video, guys. I know that you're angry, I know you're upset, but I'd really appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, please drop a subscription. And I'll catch you tomorrow for the podcast. It's been a pleasure. It genuinely has been a pleasure to speak to you, as it always is. And as always, up the Arsenal.